My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people. All right, welcome back, everybody. Eli here, and today for Meet Cool People, we've got Graham Kuhn, and he and I just recently got introduced, hit it off like an amazing conversation, became fast friends, and so I wanted to bring him on, share some cool stuff. Let me tell you a little bit about him before I bring him in here. He's the founder of Focus Films, a video production company that helps businesses stand out with their story-driven videos that actually move the needle. He studied in opera, which I find very entertaining, and he and I had a fun time geeking out about that. But spent 20 years building a career as a singer in everything except opera. And today he brings that same passion for storytelling and connection to video, helping good companies tell their story in a way that builds trust, drives results, and creates real impact. With that said, Graham, thanks for coming and hanging out today, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. So I forgot my mic was live. It just makes me laugh. He spent 20 years building a good singing career in everything but opera. It's funny. It's funny.
Well, you know, it's so funny because that's where, when I found out that you had been into opera, that was like, okay, wait a minute. This dude and I are going to have a lot to talk about, because a lot of you and I talked about this, but a lot of people don't actually know. Some people do, that I was actually classically trained in voice. That's how I started. And then I got out of it because of the fact I had stage fright.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I went from singing on stage, terrified, to backing off. I'm like, yeah, nope. I went behind the scenes. I worked in the rock and roll industry for several years, just basically doing staging. I was like the roadie, except for I didn't go on tour because I didn't want to have to travel in a stinky bus all the time. And then I got into speaking, which I think is so funny. People are like, how'd you get into speaking? I'm like, I still have no clue how the hell that happened.
Yep.
But now you can stick me on stage in front of 500 people. Not a problem. You're still not going to find me doing karaoke. So
I got into, like, I started in music in like 5th grade in the, playing saxophone and whatever in the band. And then 8th grade, I had auditioned for the chorus or the musical.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I kind of like that. So by the time I got through high school, I was like, I really like this musical theater stuff. And so I wanted to wrestle in college, and I wanted to major in music. I wanted to major in musical theater. Well, I'm a pretty immature person. I'm a little bit of a late bloomer maturity wise. And so I chose a school that had a great wrestling program and a great music program. I did not realize in my little 18 or 17-year-old brain that you've got classical training and then you've got musical theater training. And so I went to a college that did classical training. There was no dance classes. There was no musical theater. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll get trained in this. But it was never my goal to like get trained in that. But it's been a great foundation. It's been awesome. I've used it in every singing thing I've done in the last 30 years. It's just a great foundation. But yeah, that's why the bio says everything but opera, because I never planned to go into that. But it's a great foundation. And it's funny, the stage fright too. High school, I had terrible stage fright, but I'd go on, do the thing, and then come off. But then over time, just the more I did it, and just like you now, I can like get up in front of people, and my wife is like, how do you get in front of people? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel comfortable. I don't have any stage fright anymore. It's just, gotten comfortable. Like, that's just part of what I do.
Yeah. Well, I think, like for me, I think it's a matter of, it's a different modality. So what I do when I get up on stage is I'm teaching factual stuff. So it's basically imparting knowledge and data, as opposed to, like, I mean, it doesn't matter how good somebody is of a singer, somebody's going to hate them. And my brain, I think that like put that in their head. And I was like, oh, but I don't want to get up there and have people think I suck.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that kind of came from. Plus, in high school, it wasn't, my high school was not the most fun experience. So I was not one of the kids that was popular, if you want to put it that way. So yeah, it's a whole different creature. But, here we are today, and it's been a long journey, but it's a lot of fun. And now I get to meet cool people like you and bring them on the show and have some fun stuff. So tell us a little bit about, how did you get started in the film side of things?
Oh, okay. The very first time I picked up a camera, I was 14, and I'm not going to go all the way back to 1988, but that's the genesis. My father was the high school wrestling coach, and I was in 8th grade, and he said, "I need someone to run the video camera um, for the varsity wrestling matches. Do you want to do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that'd be cool." And I really liked it, being on the tripod with the big camcorder and zooming in and zooming out, and watching the high school wrestlers. I don't know, that was kind of cool. And then at the end of the season, I would put all of the best moves and highlights together, like a little, music montage hype video, and they'd show it at the end of the year banquet, and people just loved it. And I was like, this is kind of cool. I was like, I don't know, I just liked visuals, and I'm just a creative person, and so that really grabbed me. But then I didn't do anything again until my 3rd year of college, when my wrestling coach in college was like, "Hey, you made videos in high school? May Could we do one for us?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So that was 96, 97. Again, didn't touch anything with cameras or anything until like 2009 or 10. I had been working at my church for 3 years doing music. It was my day job, working at the church, doing music all week, working on Sundays during worship services. And then the boss from the church was like, "Hey, we heard that you did videos. We'd like to start doing videos. Could you do that?" And so they added that to my list of responsibilities. So I kind of became a creative director. I was like assistant music director, and then creative director with audio visual and creating videos and all that. And through that, from 2009 or 10 until 2020, I was cranking out 2 or 3 videos literally every week. I mean, there's ministry announcements, there's events that are happening, there's storytelling to get people to come to a certain ministry, and recruiting and all that. And that's where I started to understand the storytelling and authenticity. And that's what really resonates with people, as opposed to scripting something for somebody to give you a sales pitch into the camera. I One day a gentleman came in from one of the ministries, and he had his talking points, and they wanted to recruit people for this ministry. And he got up in front of the camera, and he just looked right down the barrel, and he just rattled off his talking points in the most salesy, inauthentic, robotic way I've ever heard. And something just clicked in me at that moment, where I didn't turn the camera off. I was standing off to the side, and he finished, and then he looked at me, and I literally just started talking to him, and I started asking him questions about, "I know you've been in this ministry for like so long, ever since I've been here. Like, why have you been in it so long?" He's like, "Oh man, it's enhanced my faith life. It's made my family better. We give back to the community. It just fills me up, and I feel like a purpose." And we had this conversation, and he was looking off the camera, and it was a light bulb moment for me, where I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is the magic." Not scripted stuff, not teleprompters, not sales pitches, but the real human authenticity. That's really what connects with people. And from that day forward, I've always taken that approach of like storytelling and getting people to speak authentically. And then from there, video just became like a side hustle, because people in the congregation would, for my business. And I took that and then the side hustle got too big, and I'm like, I got to quit my job. And so I've been full time in it for 6 years now.
Right. I love it. That is awesome. And I think you really pushed into one of the most important things I think that so many people overthink, not even just video. Like even when I'm helping people with the writing their emails, it's the same process, but that they overthink it and they script everything so hard that it ends up becoming inauthentic and very robotic. And I love that you just started that conversation and had that talk and let him just tell a story. And did he even know that the camera was still on at that time?
No, that's the
Okay.
best part, is because
Yeah, I
people get
love it.
nervous in front of a camera.
Mhm.
So not only does it help with authenticity, but if we're talking off the camera, they don't get nervous. Whereas
Yeah.
if we're looking in the camera and they
Yeah.
get nervous. Yeah, it
Absolutely.
was, literally a completely different person, versus
Mhm.
the guy who was talking into the camera versus the guy who was just loose and talking me off from his heart.
Right.
Like, two totally different people.
Absolutely. I mean, that's like even as an example, like doing this podcast. One of the biggest things with doing the podcast is I wanted to have it with guests. I wanted to bring other people in, obviously, partially because of the name. But the other thing is that I do best when I can have conversation with people as opposed to me just talking. I've gotten a
Yep.
little better at that. There's been a lot of practice that I can do better when I'm recording stuff by myself. But the reality is that when we stop thinking about the camera and think about the conversation we're having, we loosen up, we become more real, we become more um, relaxed in the conversation. And one of the things that I love is when, like, when I'm talking to somebody and I can interview them and they can start getting, they get excited about the questions. Those are the fun parts.
Yeah.
No, that is
Yeah,
awesome.
um that is how I approach all of my clients. Like, we have a conversation. If we're doing like a brand story video, I'd say
Mhm.
almost to every client, I say, trust me, in about 5 minutes, these cameras are going to disappear in your mind. I'm right here in this chair off camera. We're just going to have a conversation. And literally, it probably takes, for most people, maybe 3 to 5 minutes where they
Mhm.
get out of that stiff robotic, I have
Right.
to be on camera. And then they just relax and we have a conversation for 30, 40 minutes. And you get some really great, authentic, genuine, heartfelt clips from that.
Yes, I love it. Awesome. So when you're sitting there interviewing somebody, how do you have the questions ahead of time, or do you have a couple questions ahead of time and then you just kind of riff on it after that, or how do you work when you're working with somebody?
Yeah. So here's why I'm awesome. No, I add an extra step into my process that I think is very crucial. Most of my video colleagues that and I mean, I am friends with multiple video production companies in my area because I believe there is no competition. I believe a rising tide lifts all boats. Like,
Yep.
I'm buddies with competitors, but I
Mhm.
know that most of them are, if Eli's looking to hire a video production company, Eli's going to call them, hey, I've got this company, I'd like to do a video. They're going to say, great, I'm available next Tuesday. Where can we shoot? They show up, they figure out a script, and they shoot it right there. Whereas I add a whole other meeting in between where we're going to have the entire conversation, whether it's on a
Mhm.
Zoom or it's in person, and I just have a pen and a paper and I'm taking notes. There's
Right.
no cameras, I get the entire story ahead of time. Um, and then I basically have a template of who they are, why they do what they do, and how they're different. Those are the basic pillars I want to get to.
Right.
And so I'm taking notes while they're answering me. Then I give it 5 to 7 days. Why is 5 to 7 days? Because I want it to get out of their brain enough that they're not trying to regurgitate exactly what they said to me, but
Mhm.
it's still in there enough that they're comfortable and they oh, I already talked about this. I kind of know what to expect.
Right.
So then I'll take their answers and I'll have it in a folder or something when we do the on camera interview, and I've got it who, why, what, how, and then I'll just go, tell me about, Eli, tell me about, like a home builder. Eli, tell me the story about growing up working in the wood shop with your grandpa. Oh man, 4 years old. I just remember the smell of sawdust and like that kind of stuff. But I
Right.
already know the answers because we've already had the whole conversation. I think that helps the my clients be more comfortable, and it helps
Mhm.
me drive the conversation and be concise instead of just meandering around trying to find a story. So that extra
Right.
hour of that deep dive, I think for me is critical in getting the results for my clients. But I think I that step is extra compared to a lot of other video production companies.
Oh, definitely. I think it's great because when you're doing that, you're getting, you get that conversation going because they're not on camera at that point, so they're more relaxed to begin with, and they're just talking. And then you can go through and make the points, and then when they come back and you're actually with camera on, you're like, "Oh, tell me about this," and they're like, "Oh yeah," and they're back
Yeah, and that little
in the mode
twinkle in
again.
the eye, and
Uh
they're
huh.
like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
dude, yeah."
I
Plus, I
love
can
that.
help them if they don't remember. I can be, well, you talked about this, and they're like, "Oh yeah," so I can help
Hmm.
guide them through. Yeah, it's I didn't make it up. I learned it from a mentor of mine, the deep dive, and I'm like, I think it's critical.
No, I love it. I love that. That is so cool. Now you're in the Atlanta area, right?
That's right. A
Awesome.
little bit northwest. I'm in
Okay.
Woodstock, just a little bit
Yes.
north of Atlanta.
Awesome. So now do you when you're working with clients, are you traveling or are you working mostly with just local clients at this time?
Both, really
Okay.
both.
Yes.
I wish I could focus only locally, but I do travel quite often, all over the
Right.
country, and I've been to Cancun once for a week-long lifestyle shoot, but all over the country.
Nice. I love it. That is awesome. When you're getting clients and they're like, well, first off, let me back up just a little bit. what kind of clients are you primarily working with right now? Are they small mom and pop type businesses, or, coaches? Where is your specialty at this point?
Yeah, I would say the main kind of industries that I do well in or that I focus on are lawyers, especially
Okay.
personal injury attorneys, because from a story standpoint, there's a stigma attached to attorneys that they're all greedy and they all do. When you
Yep.
hear their authentic story about how they want to help people, it resonates.
Hmm.
So anybody that has skepticism around their industry, chiropractors, I do well with chiropractors or healthcare in general. Um, Home builders, roofers, construction do
Hmm.
really well with that. I would those would be my main, and then I do like working with coaches. I've only worked with a couple. But again, their brand is them, their
Hmm.
personal brand. So their story, does
Right.
really well.
Okay.
And then I really enjoy nonprofits, especially if I'm in a place professionally where I can donate my time and, give back and help, that is very fulfilling for me to be totally egocentric. That fills me up.
Right.
And I love to help people. I say it in one of my brand story videos that I love to spread the message of good people. I love to amplify the message of good people, whether that's charity or it's like the nicest lawyer in your town or it's, good people, because if we can get the message of good people out there, the world is going to be a better place instead
Hmm.
of the people who can spend the most on marketing and then they win. I want to help that small business that's or smaller business. Probably I would say the revenues are typically 500,000, a million or more.
Okay.
So typically not a mom and pop, but maybe you're a local plumbing company or
Right.
something like that. Um, but that's how we can compete with the big companies who just throw tons of money at marketing. If we can amplify the message of those good people, it's going to
Hmm.
change the whole energy in the world and change the world. So that's my big my big pie in the sky why. I want to change the world, man. I want the world to be better.
I love it. No, and you touched on something very, I think, is really important that is much bigger than what you were even saying, which was you look at an industry such as attorneys, where I always joke about the fact that in most of the world, we live our business off of know, like, and trust, right? And I always say those three words are in a specific order for a specific reason. You have to get to know somebody first before you can decide if you like them, and then when you like them, you're more likely to trust them. And then I always joke about the fact that attorneys and doctors are the only ones that can skip that one in the middle, because we get to know them, we don't necessarily like them, but we have to trust them.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you brought up you brought up the fact that they got into what they do a lot of times because they have a passion behind it, or there's a reason, some kind of reason why that stands out and makes them unique to begin with. And so many times we don't hear those stories because they come from things from a very clinical standpoint. And I think that there's so many of us miss how powerful that piece alone is, no matter what industry it is. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah,
When
man.
what is that power of the why you do it thing, and why is that makes such a difference?
Yeah. So it's funny when I'm talking about like brand story videos and I said who, why, what, how, I try to get them to be about 2 minutes long. It's probably almost a minute that's focused on the why, because that is what resonates with people. Um, Data and facts and how great you are and you've been in business for 30 years and that's great. But that doesn't move people. But if I like in my brand story video, if I'm talking about my why of making the world a better place, somebody's going to resonate with that. And then we're going to have a vibe and it's just going to make them want to reach out to me and work with me or like, wow, I really respect his why and why he does this. For me, it's not about making videos. It's about helping people. I have the gifts that I can make videos that can help make people money, but I don't do it for that. Who doesn't love making money? But really it's the why I do it is because I like to help people. So I use my gifts to help people and amplify their message. So the why is so important because that's what resonates versus bragging about how good a company is. And it's funny that you mentioned doctors because I just completed a brand story video with a doctor. She is a rheumatologist, so she works with autoimmune patients. She was the director of rheumatology for a huge hospital chain here in Atlanta, or hospital system here in Atlanta for 9 years. And before that, she was at Duke University. So, I mean, her career is going pretty good. Um, but what she said when I interviewed her was she wanted to open her own direct care practice, which is basically I pay a monthly subscription or I pay a fee to her. We never touch insurance. There's no insurance premiums. She has no limits. Like in the hospital system, she could, because of insurance, they would say, okay, after 15 minutes, you got to go to the next patient. Or she wanted to prescribe this, but the insurance company said, no, you can't prescribe that. So, simple sentence she said was, I was just tired of the system. And when I watched one of her clients watch that video, and the client said, me too, girl. And I'm like, that's exactly what I'm trying to get, is her saying, I'm tired of the system. The patient saying, I'm tired of the system too. Now she's going to have a ton of clients who resonate with that. And now she's able to do patient care in the way that she was trained to do it. She even said in the Hippocratic Oath, it says we are to do no harm. And she goes, I really feel like the insurance model is doing harm. So it doesn't resonate with her soul and her core. And so that is why she opened her practice. That's so much better than her saying, I can help people with rheumatoid arthritis and this and the story of why she did it makes people go, oh my gosh, she's so authentic and real. I want to be her patient. So that's why it's so important. It's so much more
Mhm.
emotional and
Right.
resonates on a human level.
No, I love it. And that is, you just went through, you just explained that story so well that, I want to be a client of hers.
She's so awesome, dude,
Yeah.
because of why she's doing it.
Right. That is, I mean, those are the kind of things that I think that a lot of people miss it. And, you brought up the fact it's like, you could say, I've been here for this many years, I have this much experience, all that kind of stuff. People really don't care about a lot of that. I mean, they do to a certain degree. They want to make sure that you're
A
actually
little
qualified to do
credibility.
what you do. Yeah,
Yeah.
that basic credibility. But like I was just working with somebody this last week, and all their bio and all their stuff was very me focused, and it
Yeah.
was like I'm acclaimed on this, and I'm a sought after speaker, and I have this many things, and blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, dude, nobody cares.
Yep.
And it's like, I mean,
Well,
yes,
it's like
have that.
if you put, I don't know, let's say I'm trying to think of kind of a saturated market. Let's just say electricians. Let's
Okay.
say there's a guy with a truck who's a certified electrician, master
Mhm.
electrician.
Right.
You've got three master electricians, three different companies. They all have the same amount of experience. They all
Yep.
basically do the same thing. They put electricity in your house or they fix them. They all do the same thing. The only thing that's going to differentiate them is who they are.
Right.
Authenticity is what kills your competition. If
Yes.
somebody resonates with me, they just like me a little better because of my story, then I
Mhm.
win that client. Or they might like
Yeah.
the guy next to me. And then that's the only difference between us, is
Yeah.
who we are as people and the authenticity in our story. That's the only differentiator.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to be really honest, there are certain criteria and certain things where those credentials obviously make a bigger impact. But a lot of times, if you resonate with somebody, if you are more authentic with somebody and they gel with you, they are more likely to do business with you regardless of your actual experience.
I've learned that from, I mean, it's not experience, but from realtors.
Mhm.
They say there are so many times that if they're selling a home, they will sell to the family or the person whose story they resonated with or who
Mhm.
moved them more than, it may not be the highest offer. It's
Right.
just something resonated with them and they're like, I want them to have this house. So yeah, to your point, for sure. May not even have the same certifications or the same experience, but they gel with you and they trust you immediately. And they're like, I, it's almost like subconsciously they want to help your business. They're like, I want to give this guy money, you
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely. I mean, I've always joked about that. Like, there's a place when I used to live in Phoenix that some friends and I would go and meet for coffee. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't really like their coffee. I didn't. But the staff was always super friendly. They were very conversational. The owner would always come out and chat with us. We got to know him really well. And we never thought once to switch. There was another place, Kitty Corner, like right across the street. And we never once thought to change because of the atmosphere and the attitude that they had, even though it wasn't my favorite. You know, a lot of times I'd leave there, go across the street to Starbucks and go get something else as well.
That's funny
Um,
because there's actually 2 places locally for me that are exactly like that.
yeah.
I think their coffee's bitter and I don't love it, but it's a small business, they're great
Hmm.
people, I wanna support them. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I totally feel that.
Yeah. And I think that that's such a underrated process in today's world. So many people, especially in our busy, especially with social media and everything, we are in that busy, overwhelmed, um, it's like a mosquito type of thing. So
Yeah.
much stuff going on all the time. We have to stand out. But what ends up standing out at the end of the day, and this is the stuff that I'm preaching all the time, is you and how you can talk in a way that people have a conversation as opposed to talking at somebody. You know, it's
Yes.
like, are you talking with somebody or are you talking at them? And there's just such a different conversation with that.
Well, and it's like in your business, or speaking of like, specifically emailing, I mean,
Mhm.
how many emails do I get every day that literally sound the same? They try to give me some hooky subject and then
Yep.
some hooky first line, or it's some bullshit that they got off of LinkedIn. I have a whole string of emails on LinkedIn from some guy that thinks I do neuroscience. Like, nah, bro. I did one video for a like years ago. And
Right.
so they just grab it off of your LinkedIn and it's just so fake. So when somebody like you comes along with more authentic, more storytelling, that is what stands out because dude, I
Mhm.
literally probably get 20 to 50 of those bullshit emails every
Yep.
day,
Yep.
And so what stands out is authenticity. I'm doing
Right.
a whole workshop on that on Thursday, but in the
Nice.
AI world, authenticity is what's going to stand out.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to stand out even further. You know, the more I'm talking to people, the more I notice that as we get more noise, and especially with the rise of AI, everybody's just pumping out AI garbage left and right. And they're not actually, they're losing the heart.
Yes.
And, you know, this is what's, you know, people like you and I specialize in is showing the heart. How do you
And
put the
don't
heart
get
into
me wrong, I use AI, but
right?
you have to
Yep.
make it human. You can't
Yes.
just copy and paste whatever Claude or ChatGPT or whoever it spits out. It's like, that's a great idea. Now let me put my Graham spin and my experience on it. And that's where the real
Exactly.
value is. Yeah, I'm not saying don't use AI, but
Right.
don't just make this generic crap and then stick it out there like everybody does.
Exactly. And that's one of the things too is like there's also with the rise of all that kind of stuff, we can go into the video side of this, the rise of um faceless videos. And I
Yes,
think there's a place for that
I agree.
to a degree, but at the end of the day, people aren't going to be as connected to those because of the fact that it's not, you know, it's not you. And
I
people
think
want
it's
to connect with
for
humans.
yeah, for different purposes. Like I've
Hmm.
watched plenty of faceless videos for either news headlines
Hmm.
or how-to tutorials,
Right.
you know, but I haven't watched a faceless video to hire a personal injury attorney.
Right.
I want to know his or her story and like why I should have, so different applications. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely watched faceless videos, but oh, I pray to God the whole world doesn't become faceless videos. Like it can't happen. It can't happen.
Yeah, you know, it's funny is I'm starting to see a lot more pushback on that because, and it's not because there isn't good stuff out there. Like you said, there is some good stuff, but so many people just jump down the easy button
Yep.
basically. And they're going to, it's like, oh, let me create 552 videos in the next 10 minutes that are just regurgitated stuff. And
Yep.
it's like, yeah, no, you're not building any connection. You're not building any loyalty with that.
Yep.
It's just data, which we a lot of times we know isn't even true data. It's not even authentic in itself. Um, you know, and I think that that's where people like you and I are going to definitely stick out for the longer time, and we're going to help our clients longer. And that's one reason why you and I gel so well, is because not just so that we both have music backgrounds, but that, you know, we both come from this place of how can we help our clients be as authentic and be real, build real relationships, real
Yep.
loyalty. And you know, I love what you're doing when the storytelling side. And I want to talk about the storytelling side because so many people, in my opinion, take the concept of storytelling too far and they overthink the story. And I think that, you know, Story brand is a great framework, but it's gotten blown up by people
Yep.
who don't understand it's just a framework to help you tell your story as opposed to everything has to be perfectly scripted, which is where a lot of people are missing the boat. Why don't we talk about that for just a
Yeah,
minute?
man. Yeah, for me, especially when I'm telling people, um, I have a client who they want to do more videos on their own, but they've never done it. They're nervous, all that. And I said, look, start with this. Just turn your camera on, turn your phone on, and just picture one person. Like for
Mhm,
me, I picture my wife. I'm talking to her, and then tell that person about a client that you helped. Just tell
mhm.
me the story. How did they come to you? Why did they hire you? What did you do to help them? Um, that's the easiest way to get started. Instead of talking about me and how great I am, and let me talk about my client who I helped. They were looking for this. That's the easiest way to tell a story. Um, and then just talking about kind of your journey, like how you opened the floor up to me when we first started. Like, how did you get here with into filmmaking and video and all that? And I told you it was a long story. It was probably 5 minutes, but I mean, that's a framework that can be cut down into shorter clips and things like that. So that's
Right.
my story. It wasn't a story brand story, but it's resonating. There's a quote or a data set or piece that I use in every presentation I do. I can't remember the source of it though now, so I'm an idiot. But it's people retain 95% of a message when it's in video or
Mhm.
told in a story
Right.
versus 10% when it's just data. And
Right.
so if you want people to remember things, you tell a story. It doesn't even have to be about your business or anything specific, but
Mhm.
storytelling, it lights. I'm so into the geeky neuroscience, man. Your more parts of your brain light up when you're hearing a story. So the
Yep.
more your brain is being used, the more you're going to remember it versus two parts of your brain when it's just data and numbers. So yeah, the storytelling, I don't think there's a framework to it. I think like when I'm doing testimonial videos, I want to know what was life like before,
Mhm.
what was life like working with my client, or what was the experience like, what is life like now, literally those three things. Like I'm working with a pool builder right now. It's like, oh well, this older couple is like, we've been married 42 years, we've wanted a pool for 30 years, but things just never lined up. Now we were ready, and we met him, and we interviewed three
Mhm.
other people, but his honesty and transparency is really what. Then the process was amazing. He was done in 32 days. He was in contact with us. He told us exactly what was happening. He was on the job site every day. He's so honest and trustworthy. And now we're out here with here's where the real visual story comes in. Now we're out here every weekend with the grandkids, swimming and playing, and like our
Yep.
neighbors are coming over, and we're having gatherings, and they call it the neighborhood oasis. And like, dude, if that doesn't give you goosebumps about
Yep.
grandparents having grandkids, we're talking about freaking swimming pools, dude. But
Mhm.
it's that story that gets people to envision and the emotion and that kind of thing. So it's so much better than hire so and so pool company because they do a great job. They've been around for 10 years, you know?
Right. Absolutely. That is such a great thing. And by the way, for everybody listening, go back and just listen to what he just said because the framework on how to get a testimonial, that's what it is. It really is.
Three
It is,
parts.
yeah, three parts, and it's super powerful. I've been using the same thing. Like I interview clients, my clients, and I do the exact same thing. And it's so much better than, you're just like, hey, could you write a testimonial for me?
Yes.
And usually it's like, hey, Eli is awesome to work with and he's cool. And it's like, yeah, I appreciate that, but that's not really saying anything.
Yep.
But if you can
Yep.
get that three-part question and let them talk, you get some phenomenal stuff out of it. It's
Yeah,
really awesome.
I did 3 client testimonials for him in the last month, and I'm really proud of him, of them. And yeah, one of them, he texted me back because it was a family and they had 2 little girls, and they were cool with
Mhm.
having the little girls on there. And so at the end, I had each little girl just say, "Thank you, Mr. Scott. Thank you, Mr. Scott." He texted me, he goes, "Dude, I'm in tears right now." I'm like,
That's awesome.
"Awesome.
I love it.
Awesome.
It's very, very cool.
If I can get tears, that is a win."
Yep. I love it. That's awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, we are at the top of our time here. So I've got two final questions for you. Last question is going to be the easy one. That is how people can get a hold of you. So you can answer that in just a minute. But before that, this is the Meet Cool People show. And I always ask every one of my guests, what do the words meet cool people mean to you?
I think the easiest way or the first way that I would recognize that is somebody that has no ego. I am big on building community. And like I said, I don't feel like there's competition in my industry. I feel like there's plenty of work for everybody, especially where I live in Atlanta. A rising tide lifts all boats. And so if I'm at a networking event and I meet another video person and he's super cool and curious, or she, and wants to know about my business and like things are cool, I love that, versus the person who's got the ego and they're like, well, I shoot on this camera. You don't, how long have you been, did you go to film school? Like, that's not a cool person. So lack of ego and curiosity. Like last night I was at an event where the local mayor was there, and I just kept remarking at how curious she was. She just kept asking me questions about my business and my family and what I do and how I got into that and all that. And I was like, that's a cool person. Like, whether she was really trying to care about me or it was, just she knows how to have a conversation, it made me feel really cared about and really seen. And I think that's a cool person. So I think lack of ego, which I think would equate to like also being coachable, being willing to learn different things. Like when before we got on here, Eli, and you had said, well, I didn't think I'd have to give you any training on being on a podcast because you've done it before. And I said, man, I am always willing to learn. I've done this stuff before, but if you've got some tips and tricks for me, I am wide open. And then just being curious, wanting to learn about other people and not just being in your bubble and looking in a mirror and promoting yourself, but how can I help other people? How can I lift you up? What can I do in my skill set or in my experience that can help you? Like there's the networking group that Eli and I are in, and it's a give first mentality. How can I refer people to Eli to help him and his business versus this is how you can refer me? And that kind of stuff just resonates with me. So it was a very long answer, but I think it's no ego, being curious, and being willing to learn about things that you may already know and maybe don't know.
I love it. Very cool. And I think that the no ego thing is a very important one. And I think I'm glad that you brought that up because I don't think anybody has brought that one up specifically
Ooh,
before. Yeah. So
nice.
that's a new one. We always get amazing answers when I ask that question, but that was one I don't think anybody else has said before, which is great.
I'm serious. It's the first 5 seconds if I meet somebody and I detect ego or no ego,
Mhm.
basically the first couple sentences they say to me, I already know.
Right.
Like, so yeah, it's
Yeah.
very important to me.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Very, very cool. All right. So, last question. How can people get a hold of you if they want to connect with you and get to know more about all the awesome stuff you're working on?
Yeah, my website is focusfilms.com. Focusfilms.com. Phone number is on there, contact form, email, or on LinkedIn. Look me up on LinkedIn. I'm on there all the time. Graham Kuhn, Kuhn. But yeah, that would be the best way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. And we'll be sure to put that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, my friend, for coming and hanging out. And before we wrap up here, I do want to make one little shout out because I forgot to do this at the beginning. I got to thank David Solomon for introducing us.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
because he's the one that actually introduced us, and it was so funny because I remembered that, like, immediately after our call, I saw a reply email that you sent to him going, "Dude, this was such an awesome call. We went way over time."
Yep.
So gotta do a quick little shout out to David for that one. So thanks, David, if you happen to be listening. He's probably not, but I figured I'd say it anyway.
Yeah, thank you, David. Yeah, it's a great connection, man. I really resonate with you and what you do. It's and why you do it and how you all the things.
Cool. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it, man. And thank you again for coming and hanging out. Wise wisdom. I much appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, and everybody else, get out there. Have an amazing week. As always, if there's anything I can do to help you out, reach out. Let me know. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. Now, if you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rock star.